Hi, my name's Nancy Gilbert. I'm the president of the St. Margaret's Bay Housing Coalition. I've been on the board since 2018, and we're working on affordable housing intergenerational, multi-generational, I guess we call it. Seniors, we're looking at seniors, people with disabilities. The Seniors Association started back in 2009 in our community to look at housing. And they tried their darndest, worked very hard on it, and then they decided in 2017 that they wanted to form a separate group that would handle this issue. So I became involved a year after that, and it's been a long road, even it's only since 2018, but it's been a long road. We were looking for land, we were talking to developers, government, and it was hard to find a spot. I mean, that would, we wanted to have enough room that we could be like phase it in. We'd be phase 1, phase 2, phase 3. And so we kept looking, and finally we found some crown land at the head of St. Margaret's Bay on Scholars Road by the Bayview High School. And we went to the government and said, would you ever consider having this land set aside for affordable housing? And they said, well, it really wasn't on their radar, but hey, yes, they would talk to us. So we started to talk to the Department of Municipal Affairs and Housing, our local MLA, our councillor, and everyone was keen, really keen that, we need housing in St. Margaret's Bay. We need market housing, but we desperately need affordable housing. And so then we kept working with the government and talked to developers and have a very hard-working board that we've gone to so many conferences and meetings and tried to make as many connections as we could with other groups, nonprofit groups in St. Margaret's Bay, so that we would get some support for what we wanted to do. So then it was in last year, I think it was last year, the government decided to put some of this land out for tender, and Scholars Road came up. At first we were thinking, I think, pie in the sky. We thought we could do it. We could put it, we could put a tender in for this. And I thought, we sort of talked amongst ourselves and we thought, we're hardworking, but we don't really have the financial means and we didn't have the expertise to do this. So we thought, but what we could be an advocate for people in St. Margaret's Bay that wanted affordable housing. And, so sort of once the word got out, they did some articles in the Masthead News about our group and what we were trying to accomplish. And we heard, sometimes daily from people. I got phone calls, emails, I'm living in my truck. I'm living with my mother, but I can't live here any longer. Could I have one of your spots? And I always felt really bad because I said, look, we're just in the initial stages here. It's going to be a number of years. But hey, I'll take your name and your number and, and keep you informed of what's going on. And I think that was the hardest part doing it, because there were so many people that were in need and we couldn't give them a quick answer. We couldn't give them a quick solution to their problem. And I think I was a little bit naive myself. I didn't realize how bad the housing situation was in St. Margaret's Bay. I always thought of us sort of more of like a middle income, community. But there was a lot of people that were camping, couch surfing, spending their day in the library because there was no place for them to go. And I thought, oh my gosh, we have a problem here in St. Margaret's Bay and we need to do something about it. So when the government put the tender out, we said, well, we would like to be an advocate, I guess. We want to. There's certain things we thought that were good for St. Margaret's Bay. We are a community of, we wanted space, we wanted green trees, we want maybe a community garden, maybe some chickens, sort of thing. And so we thought, well, then that's going to be our role. We'll be there to make sure that whoever develops this property will develop it in a way that would, be good for the residents of St. Margaret's Bay. So anyway, so they did put a call out for tenders. And that was a year ago, and we haven't heard the final decision yet as to who will be doing the project, but we continue to speak to the people in the government. We talk to different developers. We're always talking to people, like different groups in the community, to say, well, what do you see as being the right fit for St. Margaret's Bay? And so we've got a lot of input, and as I said, we've got a lot of people working on our board that, we did a survey that went out, and most people said, we want to stay in St. Margaret's Bay, but A, we can't afford to stay in St. Margaret's Bay. They're being rental evicted, or the prices are just too much, or I have a big house and I don't want a big house anymore. And so I want to maybe downsize, but there's no place to downsize to. So then we thought, well, we're going in the right direction. There's a great need. We hear about it all the time, about people moving out of our community, having to move into the city, into an apartment that they don't want to be in, because basically there isn't any place to live. And also too, we hear from businesses that we can't keep our employees because they don't have any place to live. A lot of younger people, they have to hop on the bus and come from Halifax and work in St. Margaret's Bay, but can't live in St. Margaret's Bay. As I said, my son lives in Toronto, and he would love to have a spot in St. Margaret's Bay, but again, it's not affordable for most people. The rents are astronomical. I've heard of rents up to $3,500 a month, and so it's not too many people can afford that kind of a rent. So anyway, so we thought, well, affordable is the way to go. Now, with our project, it would be a combination of market and affordable. We're hoping that at least 40% of the home, of what we decide that's going to be built, would be affordable. And of course, the developer wants to make money. Of course, that's what they're there for. And then they would have market and probably retail and things like that. So I mean, we're working hard on it. I mean, we look at it sometimes as a slow process, but everyone else says, no, you're moving along quite quickly, and don't get discouraged and keep moving along. And I work with a couple of other groups that work with people with disabilities, and that's always there's lots of times there's no place for people with disabilities to go. We have no group homes out our way, so either you're living with your mom and your dad for a long period of time, or you might have to go share a house, and so with maybe an aunt, an uncle, a cousin, or a neighbor. So I mean, so that's when we thought, well, we're not, we're building affordable houses, but we're talking multi-generational, intergenerational. So I mean, there will be families sharing a spot. Whether it's a townhouse, an apartment, or an actual, a set-along, a freestanding house. So there's different ways of looking at it. I mean, we always felt that with our committee, it was sort of like there's many ways to address the housing issue. It's not all about maybe affordable housing. It's about sharing maybe a spot, and if you want to keep people in our community, and some people are more than willing to pay market just to stay in our community. So it's been a sort of an eye opener for me sometimes to see the great need, and the diversity, I guess, is what we're looking at too. It's not just one solution doesn't fit everyone. So you have to look at all kinds of different things. And when when David and Kelly got hold of me about the sharing their symposium, the transition-based symposium, and I thought, well, that's all about sharing. That's not sort of what what we're working at, but I suppose when you think of it, I mean, we're like if you're in a community and you're sharing space, you're sharing maybe a community garden, you're sharing, you're going to raise chickens together, that it is about sharing in a community, whether you're living actually with someone or you're just sharing the land around you. So, we're working on it. It's, as I said, a little bit slower than we would like to it. I'm quite sure if we put up a number of apartments, houses, townhouses, you name it, if we could snap my fingers and they're all up tomorrow, they would be filled. And it would be nice to have some people that had to leave St. Margaret's Bay to come back to St. Margaret's Bay, and then have some of our young people that want to live here be able to stay here. And you know, when you have a drain of people that leave your community, you know, if you're seniors, you're losing the wisdom and the history that they had by growing up in St. Margaret's Bay. And if you can't attract young people, then you can't, you know, you can't grow your community, and you can't grow your volunteer base. So I mean, it's a, you know, it's a catch-22 situation. But you know, like I said, we're working on it, and we're pleased with the direction we're going in, and we're hopefully, it would be nice to say that we're going to have some shovels in the ground soon, but hopefully in 2024 that'll be our goal for 2024. I don't know, I think it's maybe something that we've forgotten. I was actually at a meeting one day, and I talked about, you know, the symposium coming up and host sharing, and someone said to me, well, you know, years and years ago, my family took in boarders and lodgers. People would come to the community, work, you know, Monday to Friday, then go back, you know, to Cape Breton, let's say. And she said, and we make great friends, and, you know, lifelong friends. And so, you know, it happened a long time ago. And, you know, people sharing homes, like grandparents sharing homes with you know, the grandchildren sort of thing. So I think it is something that we had at one time, and it was quite popular. And we just got away from it. Everybody wanted their own space, and it was maybe easier to build then, and less expensive to build. So it was sort of like, well, let's just build. And St. Margaret's Bay is a lot of just single family homes. There's really, you know, lots of subdivisions, lots of single family homes. Now, like I said, I work with people with disabilities, and they often do share because they can't be in their homes by themselves. So, you know, they've done that for years. Like I work with the L'Arche community here in Halifax, and of course that's a home sharing. They've got their L'Arche community. They have 8 people with disabilities, and then people that live with them to take care of them. So they've been host sharing for many, many years. So I mean, so I said there's lots of examples of that. And so I said it's just that I think that we got away from it because we all got to the point that, hey, we all want our own spot. And now we're realizing that maybe it's not practical to have our own spot, or it's more economical maybe to share. I know my niece and her partner, they shared a house on Agricola Street with a couple of people, you know, because they couldn't afford to be on their own. And then when the article came out in the news, Masthead News, about the symposium, I was stopped in church, and a gentleman, he said, I've got a big, huge house, Nancy. I read about that article about house sharing. He said, I'm not 100% sure if I want to do it, but I'm all by myself. And I said to him, I said, well, you've already house shared because you had your grandson living with you for a while. So that was a type of house sharing. He said, well, you know, what do? You don't know someone. I said, well, it's a process, you know, and there's help to get you through that. But he said, well, it's something that I might think about. And I said, good for you, because I said, you do have a big house, and he's by himself. And wouldn't it be wonderful to have maybe some companionship, someone to share the rent, the extraordinarily high heating bills these days. So I said, I think it's maybe coming back into vogue again to host share. I mean, maybe have an apartment. I know my sister-in-law has a little small apartment in her home. And although they're in the same house, they have separate spots, but they formed a friendship. And they are out in the yard together working, they share meals together. So, I mean, so she's sharing her house, you know, even though it's a separate apartment, it's still in the same house. So I would consider that she was sharing her house with someone. So I said I think it's, you know, maybe it's time has come about host sharing, that, you know, that again, it could be different ways of host sharing, but I think it's, you know, something that, you know, because maybe we're almost being forced into it in a certain way, because there's not enough places for people to live. We are an aging population, and, you know, lots of times as you age, you know, maybe need a little bit of help. You know, you talk about university students moving in with you know, seniors to help out. The senior gets help, and the student gets help with the rent, sort of thing. So, I mean, I think there's a lot of great possibilities out there, and you know, I think the symposium is going to bring it all to the forefront and make people think that, you know, maybe this is the next step for a lot of people. in our own community, like our the disability community. There, I know in St. Margaret's Bay, there is quite a few that people that do live with, like again, can't stay on their own for some, maybe health reasons, and move in with someone and pay rent. And I think that's great. I mean, that's a great idea. And I've read an article the other day about multi-generational living too. I mean, and I think that's something that's, maybe, in some cultural communities, you always had the grandparents living with you, and but not so much for us in St. Margaret's Bay. So I said, I think that's something that you'll be having grandma and grandpa and the aunts and the uncles, like I said, I have my son home with me. He's challenged. He can't live on his own. That hopefully eventually he will go into a large community. But so I mean, he shares with us. He's 36 years old, and he often say, well, Stan, eventually, you go out on your own. He goes, oh no, Mom, I want to stay with you. And I thought, oh no, not forever. You have to be out on your own and share a home with somebody else except your parents. I think it's something that you see more of, and the more you talk about it, the more people will tell you stories about, again, about the lodgers and the boarders people used to have, and how that, or that as a grandmother, I'm now moving in with my daughter, my son, and my grandchildren to help take care of them because they're both out working and they need someone in their home to take care of the kids. So I mean, it's it's out there, and I think it's just going to grow and grow and grow because it's just, I guess it's a need in our communities today. Well, I think, like the gentleman that I spoke to, that he said, how do I know who's going to come into my home? So I think, if it was something that a committee or a group that would say, well, I'll take the names of people that want to share their house, and I'll take the names of people that need a place to live. And they could do checks and balances. I mean, I know I work with Special Olympics as a coach. You're always got police checks, you have background checks, because you want to make sure that it's a safe environment for whoever is opening up their home, and for the person coming into the home, that it's going to be safe for both participants. And I think that would be a real step in the right direction, that if there was and I think there's a group speaking at the symposium that does that apparently. And I've heard of them before, but I don't know exactly how they work. But again, that's what you need. You need someone that's going to step up to the plate and say, yeah, we will set it all up for you. We will monitor it for you. And we will, because you can get into difficulties. Not everyone's going to love living with someone that just moved into their house. So how do you, what's going to be the help if, Joe moves in with Joe moves in with James, and they don't get along all of a sudden. Then how do you, like you often hear about the horror stories about, you get tenants and you can't get them out. And so that can happen in house sharing, that maybe it wasn't the best fix. So is there a group that's going to be like monitoring the situation, making sure that the people that are moving in together are a good fit, and that if there problems will arise, there's problems will arise. So how do you solve these problems? That you're not feeling vulnerable, that you're feeling that this is a positive experience. But if it isn't a positive experience, from time to time, I have someone I could reach out to, and that'll help me solve any issues that I might run into. Now you can build backyard suites, you can build, granny suites onto your property, you can build tiny homes. So I think they're really opening it up a bit more so that more people can do this sort of thing. And so I'm hoping that, that all the levels of government would work together with the community, because the community, the community knows what's going, we know what's going on in our community. We live in our community. And so therefore we have our finger on the pulse of what's going to work and what's not going to work. And we just want to be able to, work with the people in government that would say, sure, we will work with you. And up to this point, we've had a great rapport, as I said, with all our government contacts. Very helpful and very keen on affordable housing and willing to really, really, really help us. So that's been a plus for us. Now, I don't think it's always the case, but I think, it's the people that live in St. Margaret's Bay know what they like to have in St. Margaret's Bay, I think, so you got to go to the, I guess, the experts, and that's the residents that live there, that, that have lived there for years, and, think that, it is its greatest place to live, that I don't want to move out of this place, and therefore I want something that's going to happen in St. Margaret's Bay that's going to accommodate me, whether it's affordable housing, whether it's shared housing, you name it. It's people want something different, I guess. They want something different in St. Margaret's Bay. But there's always that, I don't want to really change the look of St. Margaret's Bay too. So there's always that, that issue that, we think of ourselves as a rural community, even though we are part of HRM. So we think, well, we love the way St. Margaret's Bay is, that it's welcoming. It's sort of like you don't want things just thrown up, I guess. You want to look like they belong in the community. And we talked about, with our affordable housing, that we would like to see walking paths, community gardens, maybe even a small community center. So it's just not you living in one part of St. Margaret's Bay and not knowing anything about the other part of St. Margaret's Bay. I think we are a community that reaches out to people and wants people to be included in our community. And whether you're working for the Seniors Association or the Black Point Community Center, it doesn't matter. People want to be part of the community that they love. They want to be included, and they want to have a voice as to what goes on in their community. And I think, that whole combination is a working combination for all of us. So we want to make sure that everybody has a say, that what we are going to build or host share or whatever, that it fits in with what St. Margaret's Bay is like. That we don't want, we're not going to be putting any high-rises up in St. Margaret's Bay anytime soon. I can guarantee you that. But we might have to tweak it. Maybe instead of 2 stories, we might have to go to 3 stories if we build an apartment building. But so we have to get everybody on board, and I think we have to get people to realize that housing, whether it's affordable, sharing, there's all kinds of ways to house people, and that maybe we have to think outside the box, and we have to be willing to maybe change some of our opinions as to what's good and what's not so good, because it's not going to be, not everyone's going to agree with you all the time about everything, and therefore we have to educate, get the word out there, what we're trying to accomplish, whether it's affordable, house sharing, and how it's going to benefit the community, how it's going to keep people in the community, and how it's going to enrich all of us. And it's going to be positive all the way around.